Hi there, Coco Bunny here. I'm going to teach you today how to paint in Firealpaca. Just so you know, these methods will also work in most other drawing programs that have layers. Anyways, let's hop to it. So, first things first, I did a small sketch of my mascot, Moose, since is made up of pretty simple shapes. Now, as you can see, a lot of this is pretty transparent. Like, you can see through all of this eyebrow and a good chunk of this eyebrow and all this. And so, to make it easier on yourself, both when flatting and when painting, all you're going to do is just duplicate it a couple of times. Like I did here. This one is duplicated 3 times, and you do that simply by clicking this button here or hitting Command C and V. Either one works, and as you can see, that's 3 times, so that's what this version here is. So once you do that, you can go ahead and go add some flats, and as you can see, it kind of looks a little messy and messed up because of the fact that it's all blue and that doesn't match well. A quick fix for this would be just to throw your line art on a multiply layer. I get pretty messy when I'm coloring, and it just doesn't look as nice. So you can see, like, here's where I missed adding enough white and stuff like that. It just looks messy. So another option, so you can skip that step, instead of setting it on a multiply, you can protect the alpha and color in your line art with whatever color you want to do. I usually go a little bit purpler towards the blues, or if I'm in greens, I can go towards blues so that I can make my shadows a bluish cool tone in contrast to the base color. And you can just go to the pen tool and color in that layer, and that could have been a bit darker. There we go. Okay, now you can see. So as you can see, it's not changing any of the opacity, it's not affecting my line art, it's just coloring it differently, which helps it stand out better, and it matches better with the picture. So I can just do that real quickly. This is another version where I finished doing all that, and so the cream is all colored in nicely, so is the skin, the eyes, the nose, even her little apron straps look great. So once you've done that, you just want to block in your lighting. Now you can do this with either your pencil tool, which is what I usually like to use. And again, you're just going to take your color. I was cheating there, but it works. You're going to take your color and just block in some shadows. Now, if you look over at my pencil brush, you will see that it is at 40% opacity. That just means that whatever it is, when I stroke, it's 40% what this color is, and 60% my base color. And the more strokes I go on top of each other, the closer it is to my color picked color. Yeah, that's pretty much it on that. So you're just going to put in all your shadows. You can also color pick your line art if you don't feel like getting more colors, and just do a quick stroke at 40% and then collect that and use that for colors. Or you can get a whole new color by going through selecting your base color and again going colder and darker. So yeah, this is a layer that I already did all my shadows and my highlights on. My highlights, I did the opposite of what I did for my shadows, and instead I went towards the yellower tones to make them brighter, warmer, more colorful. So once you've done that, you are almost ready to paint. So now that I have all 3 layers, I have my line art, I have my shading, which I've put on a clipping on my flats just so that it doesn't go outside of where I have my flatted colors. To turn on a clipping, it's an easy switch right here, and as you can see, when I turn that clipping off, you can see how lazy and messy I was, but I turn it on and nobody's the wiser. It's pretty great. So now that you have that, you can, if you put it all in a folder and you are using Firealpaca, you can hit Command C and V, and that copies every layer that you have turned on in that specific folder and puts it in a new layer for you. Then you have everything in one layer and you can easily erase parts of it. Oh, you should turn on the layer, turn off the layer under it, else you can't see what you're doing. Heads up on that. So as you can see, there we go. So now that I have that, I can clean up the edges, did it again, with my eraser tool. Another method, which is available to you if you are on any of the newer versions of Firealpaca, is you can take a eraser with the settings from your current brush. So I'm using a pencil and it's huge, and you can just clean it up, and that way you can have pressure opacity on your eraser, which is super duper handy. I really like it. It just helps me make my lines look cleaner, or at least I think so. Again, when you want to, you can switch right back just by clicking your main color, which is nice, and then you just clean up your line art. Any little extra you want to do, that'll just help you later. Now, you may not know quite how to paint yet, but don't worry, it's pretty simple. So here is an example swatch. I just took the line art color from Moose, and I took the base color from her skin, and I just put them side by side here. Now you have 2 methods of blending. You can either A, take your pencil at a lower opacity, again around 40 is usually my favorite to work with, and then you just go in and color over your other color, like you color pick either your dark or your light. I prefer to paint from light to shadows just because that's the method that works best for me, but whatever you're most comfortable, that's the way you should do it. So once you have this middle ground color, you're going to take that and color pick it, which is Alt, turns on your color picker, this cute little icon. It's also over here if you want to do that. I prefer to just use Alt, it's faster for me. So you Alt click it, paint back into the highlights, and then wherever you want, just continue blending until you're satisfied with the way it looks. So obviously I am really painting out my shadows here, so I can be like, oh no, I painted in too much, and I can just color pick those shadows and paint them right back in. And there you go, there's a nice little gradient. Now, if you don't want to color pick 1,000 times, or you just don't have the time, you have 6 things you want to paint, you want to do this super duper fast, super duper messy, Firealpaca and Psy both have this really, really great tool, which is a different brush mode, and you can find this in most of the newer versions. And that is the Watercolor Brush. So to make one of those, you just hit New Brush, and you go to Watercolor Type, and you can rename it if you want. And then you have your options. You can either change the width, which is the same as this setting, or you can change the minimum width, which is just how small your brush can possibly get. If you don't have a tablet pen, then you don't have pressure sensitivity, which just means that this setting doesn't matter to you, neither does size or opacity by pressure. Now, the next thing on this is the ease of mixing colors, which is basically the higher it is, the closer your colors that you set down will be to the colors that are already present on the canvas, and the lower it is, the closer it will be to your colors selected on your color wheel or color swatch. And the load color just means that you have a heavier hand. There will be more of whatever your load color is. So basically these two work together to make it look like that nice watercolor wet on wet technique that blends so well. So now that you have that, the preset version will come at 70% opacity. I prefer to turn mine down to about 10 or 11. It seems to blend the nicest for me, and it's the fastest way that I like to do it. But whatever is more comfortable for you, that's the way to do it. So now that I have that, I can just go back and forth. And as you can see, it's blending easier with the lighter colors. That is because the watercolor brush just does better blending with lighter colors. But what you can do is just, again, color pick this intermediary color, and that will get your last year blending so that looks nice from the shadows as well. And as you can see, that was a lot faster than doing it with the pencil tool. The downside, of course, is you have less control over how it blends. So I would advise, if you are used to painting, then I would try the watercolor tool. If you're just beginning, I would try to do it with the pencil tool on a couple of paintings first, just so that you know how it works, you know how to get your colors to go in the right direction, and you can keep more control over your shadows, keeping them closer to your initial base sketch. So, back to Moose, and here is my compiled layer. So, again, I deleted the wrong one. There we go. This is the one that I was cleaning earlier. Now, again, you'll realize that my edges are super messy, and that's because I only kind of cleaned up my sketch. Which, you know, you can be lazy now or later. I wasn't too worried about it just because I can clean the outside edge, and I don't really need to bother cleaning most of the inside edges, since blending with the watercolor brush will do most of that work for me. So now that I've cleaned up this edge in here, made it nice and pretty, gotten rid of most of the weird edges, I can again take my watercolor brush, which this is mine with all my correct settings. This is the way I like to use mine. As you can see, it's the same exact settings as the one I was showing you. I just haven't bothered changing it since it works right out of the box, which is super fun. So now you can see we're blending, and of course it's going easier into the colors. And there we go. That's nicely blended. So now here I have my shadows. I'm just going to paint those in. Just quickly blend those just so they're out of the way. Now, as you can see, it's all nicely blended, and it didn't take barely any time at all. Now, if you'll look closely, you'll see that I have painted out most of my line art. So I'm going through and I'm just averaging out those values, because you want to see the lines, or you want to feel the lines, but you don't want to see the lines. Because in real life, you don't have any hard lines around your body, obviously. And when you're doing soft shading, that's what you're looking for, that kind of semi-realistic feel. So I am just going to go through and paint all those out. And there you go. It is as simple as that. Alright, thanks guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I will put a link to the finished version of this in the description. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this helped. Have a good one.